Hello and welcome to Seek to Street. I'm Rob Humphreys and I'm the Digital Support Enabler. This is real stories from across Cumbria with real people looking at how God is impacting the faith of those in and around the county. This week, today, I'm joined by Dave. Dave's back. Hello, Dave.
Lovely to be back with you and nice to see everybody. Yes, today we're here for the Mission Community Biannual Leaders event. So we're surrounded by mission community leaders who've come from across the county for worship, for fellowship, for mutual support, for networking, for learning, and especially around discipleship.
Cool. And the sun's out. It's beautiful in Rydal, beautiful in the Lake District. It's a great place to be. And we're joined now by Rachel. Thanks for coming. Do you want to just tell us what your role is and how you support mission community leaders?
Sure. So my role is I'm the Mission and Ministry Support and Innovation Director. I am responsible for the team that deliver all things related to mission and ministry across the diocese. Too long to go into detail, but just this podcast. But in terms of the focus of today, I am responsible for supporting the mission community leaders in their development as we strive to ensure that mission communities can be all they can be and flourish in Cumbria.
And what do you think is the most important thing mission community leaders need at this moment in time in Cumbria?
Okay, so this event today is one of two that we provide annually. Our particular focus is on supporting mission community leaders to really advocate on behalf of their mission community and supporting the teams that work with them, which are clergy and lay leaders, around delivering 6 things that mission communities are focusing on. So one of the 6 things that we're focused on today is discipleship. I'm calling this Discipleship Continued because our last event in September was our first kind of session on that, where we had some really great input from Michael Layden and Claire from Emmanuel Theological College. And today we've got Jo Trickey from LICC, which is going to really build on that in practical ways, with a particular focus on whole life discipleship. We need to support our mission community leaders to have really quality input, which encourages them with their theological reflection and their own development. And there is also something really important about bringing them all together so they can learn and share with one another. They routinely tell me that that's what they really appreciate. So we're trying to blend the two. And people now come through the door with a big smile on their face, with great anticipation of what they're going to receive. As the first one we ran, perhaps there was more feeling of being sent and needing to be here, rather than necessarily wanting to be here.
And today you've arranged this brilliant day where we're in Rydal and the sun is out and actually the community leaders are out there mixing with each other and helping each other out there in the sunshine. So they've got to be happy.
And we had sun last time, so surely we must be doing something right. Well, just looking down on us and sending the sunshine, and we'll take it.
I suppose a really important part of an event like today is networking, isn't it, for these people? What do you think?
Definitely. When we meet on a deaconry basis, that's one of the really powerful things about those sessions. And these biennial events are just as important. One of the other offers that we've got is coaching, which is mostly for them as individuals, although they can access the other peer group. But yeah, that networking and not feeling on your own as a missionary too is really important.
Okay, great. Well, and what would you want the mission community leaders to walk away with today?
There is something about feeling inspired and encouraged in the work that they're doing. Discipleship is such an important part of those 6 things. And we need to really promote whole life discipleship. And I hope that they will leave with both new energy and ideas, but also lots of resources to help them do that. And to share that with the other leaders in their mission community, which is part of their role.
Cool. And how's it going so far? Are you happy with the morning so far?
Yeah, but most people have turned up, so that's always a good sign. Lots of energy in the room. Jo's being really encouraging, I think, but also challenging in some of the content. That's what we want. We want people to feel stretched. Neither panicked or comfortable, just stretched.
Rachel, thanks so much for your time.
So we're joined now by the Revd Jo Trickey, who is the church advocate for LICC. Welcome.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
Thank you. Okay, today you've been helping us explore everyday matters, whole life discipleship. Just tell us a little bit what that means simply.
I mean, really simply, it's the idea that discipleship informs all of how we live life. And Jesus cares about every part of our life. So every day matters to God, and our everyday matters matter to God. So all the things that we do, from getting up in the morning, how we live our life, who we interact with, how we speak to people, how we pray, all of that is part of our discipleship. So we're just trying to think, how do we equip people in our churches and our communities to live for Jesus in every space they find themselves in?
Cool. And you're using LICC's 6M framework. Just give us the quick version of that.
A quick version of that. So a number of years ago, one of the things that we discovered was that lots of people think success as a Christian is all about how many people you have brought to Christ. How many people have you introduced to Jesus? And lots of Christians who were living amazing godly lives were feeling like they were failures. So we did some research and put together some ideas and came up with a structure about how we can measure fruitfulness in people's lives. So they're things like modelling godly character. What does it look like to be someone who radiates Jesus in all the places you are, where your character looks like the kind of character God shapes through Scripture? What does it look like to make good work? What does it look like to minister love and grace, to be a mouthpiece for truth and justice? What does it look like to live for Jesus in all that you do? And then also, what does it look like to be a messenger of the gospel? So how do you do that in the places and spaces that God has called you to? And partly that's in response to, occasionally I get someone says something to me like, can you give me a theology of what it is to be a really good Christian teacher? And so the 6 M's then gives us a framework that you might map your job or your passion or your hobby onto and say, what does it look like to follow Jesus in all those spaces?
And these mission community leaders have lots of churches and people in their congregations in their wider areas. How would you hope they distill that into those communities?
Well, I hope they'd be really encouraged to be curious about the people who are in their church communities, to ask questions and to understand a little bit more about what discipleship looks like for the people in their churches. And then kind of as you know more about that, then you can help them, can't you? You can realise actually the people in our church are amazing at justice in a kind of social justice sense, but they don't really think about it when it comes to their workplace. So how do I help equip them to follow Jesus there? Or perhaps there's an amazing opportunity to do something that is loving in your community. Well, how can you help people to do that, both as a group and individually in the places they find themselves?
Cool.
Obviously, you're talking to a bunch of mission community leaders today, and if a mission community leader leaves today thinking, yes, but what do I do next Tuesday? What's one small step that they can take to move towards that whole life discipleship for them and others?
Yeah, so there are lots of things that we can do, and my key objective is not to add things to people's to-do list, because I recognise that people who lead churches, their to-do list is already so long. If I try and put something on it, it will just feel like more of a burden. So I guess my main thing to say would be, well, why don't you, when you're praying for your church, when you're praying for the people you lead, why don't you pray for the places they find themselves in the week, not just in the places that they serve in your church community? So how do you bring something like that into your prayers, or how do you bring that into your strategy meeting? So when you're saying, actually, what do we want to achieve in the next 6 months? Is discipleship even a question in that meeting? Are you even thinking about it strategically? And if you're not, well, can you just slip it in and spend 5 minutes thinking, what kind of disciples are we building in this church at the moment? Let's have a conversation. So you're not adding another meeting in, but can you just slip it into the places that you're already spending time with people and with Jesus?
Okay. So it kind of becomes a rhythm, doesn't it?
Yeah. The aim is a culture shift, not a to-do list.
Yeah.
And I think that for churches, that's so important, that we don't just add more to what we're expecting people to do, because the list is long. But even to say, well, when you're doing safeguarding in your church, or when you're fixing the building, how can you as a church leader bring Jesus into that and ask, where is God in this?
So on that culture, why is cultural listening so important for mission and discipleship?
Oh, it's such a big thing, isn't it? If you don't understand the culture that you're speaking into and the challenges that people are facing, you can say masses of great stuff and it won't land and it won't connect. But actually, if we recognise what the issues the people in our churches are facing look like, what are the conversations they're having at work over coffee? What are the conversations they're having when they bump into their neighbours? And how do we equip them to speak into that well? Actually, that's such a gift to people.
I suppose the final question, in a sentence, so no pressure. What's your hope for mission community leaders leaving this event today?
One sentence.
It can be two if you want.
Do you know what? I hope that they would see that Jesus is in every detail of their people's lives and be able to help their people see that a little bit more.
Joe, thank you so much.
Okay, so we've heard from Rachel and Joe, but what about mission and discipleship at a local level?
So we've been out and about today speaking to some of the mission community leaders who are here. What's your name and where do you serve?
I'm the Reverend Dave Flitcroft and I serve in the benefice of Egremont and Hill at the moment, but I'm shortly going to be moving to a new post at St Bees Priory.
And that's what mission community does?
That is the Coast to Fells mission community.
Okay. Dave, just talk about something good that's happening missionally in your area.
There's a lot of things been happening. One of the really good spaces we had is the warm space. That's really well attended, and that's in the Methodist meeting place on what's called the street in Egremont, which is the general term for the main street in Egremont. We had a meeting there the other week, but we couldn't actually hear ourselves think because downstairs they had a singer on. So it was really good, but it was absolutely packed out with people that had come in there just to gather together in that space, listen to music together and share fellowship. It was absolutely fantastic, and it was a really joyful occasion.
And some of those people, are they non-church goers?
Yes, some of them go to church. I mean, obviously there's a mixture of Anglicans and Methodists there as well, but some of them aren't church people as well. They've just come in because it's a nice space to go and hang out, so that's fantastic.
Brilliant. And what will you take away from today's event, Dave, in terms of mission, in terms of discipleship, everyday life discipleship?
I think the important thing from today for me is framing the idea that even people doing ordinary everyday jobs are actually doing something missional, and it's just changing my mindset about how they're doing it, but also theirs. That just like as the video said, being a flower arranger, you're not just a flower arranger. What you're doing is actually affecting people because you're a Christian, and how you approach that work. So I think that's what's really important from today for me. And obviously the talk about the quiet revival and where we're seeing it within Cumbria, but also farther afield. Certainly for me, seeing adult baptisms and things like that, people coming into church asking questions, it's fantastic. You know, all these naysayers saying Christianity's dead. It's not, it's alive, things are happening, you know, things are moving.
What's your name and where do you serve?
I'm Robin and I serve in the town of Barrow.
Okay. Missionally, what's happening in Barrow, Rob?
Yeah, we've got some really exciting stuff happening under the banner of Rising Faith Barrow. We've got a couple of examples of new gatherings of Christians meeting. So one particularly happening at a church called St Aidan's Tea Time Church, seeing a few people gathering together to basically look at the Bible, sing together, pray together, journeying in what Christianity is, what it means to follow Jesus. People who've never been part of a church before, which is really exciting.
And what's one thing that you can take away from today's event in terms of everyday discipleship?
I think today has been great for encouraging me to see actually the people who gather for church, actually sending them out to the realities of everyday life, ordinary life. They can make a difference where they are, and not separating out all of that stuff Monday to Saturday, for example, from Sunday. Actually, part of what we want to see is them equipped and have a vision for what they're doing in the rest of the week.
Just give me your name and where you serve.
Yeah, I'm Stephen Banks. I'm the team rector of the Binsey Mission Community, which is quite a big area between Keswick, Cockermouth and Wigton. We've got 12 parish churches, six primary schools which go into every single week.
So there must be tons of mission going on there.
Yeah, there's lots of activities to keep us busy and lots of interaction with our own local community, mainly farming, but yes, there's plenty happening.
And people coming in and new people coming into the area?
It's encouraging that we're seeing, since we started corporate prayer just over 12 months ago again, once a month, then we're seeing that established Christians have moved into our area. They're getting involved in the life of the church, which is great for us. But we're also seeing new people literally just turn up on a Sunday, being welcomed into the church, and then through that experience beginning to explore faith for themselves.
I suppose there's also something about mission whereby people might not go to church, but you guys are relationally drawing alongside people all the time.
Very much so. I mean, certainly in farming communities and communities that are small where everyone knows each other, the activity of community events, the activity of all the interaction with the schools, and just simply being part of a farming community. Yes, there's all these touch points. Funeral ministry in our parish is a very big thing, and all the ministry that goes around it. So yes, relationships are formed. And in that way, we are the church in the community at the same time as being there on a Sunday.
Now, a major focus of today's event for mission community leaders is around everyday discipleship. How does that play out for you in a local context?
I think one of the things that myself and Charlie, anyway, my colleague, are trying to do is to convey that joy of being together, that joy of following and loving Jesus Christ. And there is a sense of weariness because we've got some very faithful and loyal but elderly members of our congregation, church officers. So in the right way, just to convey again that joy of being together in worship and prayer and fellowship, that joy of knowing Jesus, just to bring a fresh energy into what they have been faithfully doing for many years. And obviously the encouragement of seeing new people literally turn up at the door and take part and become part of the family of the church is, it's a massive boost at the moment for us.
But there's a challenge as well, isn't there? So earlier I heard you comment about the fact that someone made contact with you to say, are we allowed to come along to, I think it was a carol service. How do we break down those cultural barriers?
I think all we can do is both ourselves as clergy, but certainly our church members, just by being that presence in the community, by being that sort of friend and responding to in the right way, need or help and acts of kindness. And then that you often in those contexts, once you've built that relationship of either friendship or trust, can then lead to those questions, will you go to church, or are you a Christian? And then from there, tell me about it or whatever, or can I come? But yes, it reminds us that for many people, they don't see church as an open door, even though our buildings are left unlocked nearly all the time, so they can come in and visit on their own terms and have a quiet prayer.
Stephen, thank you.
Okay, so we've come to the end of our day at the Mission Community Leaders event. Everybody's starting to pack up. Dave, what's your takeaway from today? What have you heard?
So I think there's a lot to be excited about. I think there's lots of fantastic mission going on out there. I think people have got wonderful ways of growing new disciples and followers of Jesus Christ. And I also think that they've been asked some maybe searching questions by Joe and a presentation. What about yourself?
Yeah, I was really struck. There was a great moment during the day where Joe given a session on the quiet revival and asked for the leaders to just share what's happening in their areas, and there was a bit of nervousness to start with, and then actually it was developed in a little bit of a snowball as actually stuff. Well, actually, do you know, we've got these people coming to faith, or we've got these people wanting baptisms, or these things happening, and it began a real snowball. Well, actually, around Cumbria there are people coming to faith, coming back to church, and that for me was the real encouraging part of the day. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Rob Humphreys.
I'm Dave Roberts.
Thank you for watching Seat to Street.